Okay, folks, we're going to get started. Please, again, just as for logistics purposes only, the restrooms are behind the guard's desk. If there's anything that we can do, any of the guests here or the hosts here at NIH, we are more than happy to have you. Just some little information about upcoming activities that may be of interest to you. In addition to this NAPAW acquisition small business activity, we're also going to have a Small Business Industry Day. Registration closed last Friday. However, we are taking walk-ins. Currently, we have over 650 people registered. It's going to be at the Nature Center, and that's Building 45 on campus, and that's June 8th. Also on June 7th, for any of you all that are interested in working with historically black colleges and universities as prime and teaming members, we have an HBCU conference on June 7th at the Nature Center as well. So again, I welcome you. I'm going to introduce your MC for the day, and I'm going to sit down. I've been told not to say anything else, and we're going to move on. And welcome this morning. Thank you. Ms. Kaye. All right, let's sit down and get out the way. Do us a favor. I know that the registration packet was not here on time, and I apologize for that. That was the Beltway. But please, before you leave, make sure you get your name checked off the list so we can have an accurate listing of how many people participated, and make sure your email address is there. So if any of the slides or any of the presentations you see today, we can make sure we have a mass email and get it out to you. And also, so NAPAW will have this to invite you again to other activities that they may have. So please make sure you register in the back and make sure your name is checked off or you add your name to the list. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. From Federal, good morning. Thank you. Thank you for that. Those from the federal government, those from the small business side, speakers and presenters, I'm so glad you're all here today. It is my great honor and pleasure to welcome everyone here to this Small Business Forum and Dynamic Leadership Training. Today's program, as you know, is sponsored by NAPAW, which is National Association of Professional Asian American Women, and of course, co-sponsored by NIH Business Program Office. And my name is not really Kate, it's K-A-Y-E, Kate, K. So there's a little mistake, but that's okay. I'll be fine to be Kate for the day. It's okay. Also, this is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, for those who know about that. It's a big deal in the federal government side. A few days ago, I was talking to Honorable Norma Mineta, who was here in Rockville, and almost exactly 40 years ago, he had something to do with passing the bill to the House to make this an Asian American heritage, month. Back then it was a week, but it became a month. But he's truly an inspirational individual, especially in doing that for all of us. Again, my name is Kaye, Nitta, and I'll be serving as today's MC for most of the day, and I'll be sharing that honor with Miss Mary Tom, who is our program chair. I am the current president of NAPAW, and proud to say I am one of the original members. So I've been around NAPAW for a very, very long time, about 30 years, actually 30 years this year. It was established, and It's all due to, the hard work of Miss Vivian Kim, who is sitting right in front. She can wave to everyone. So all these years, through each training day, conference, and events that we had every year for the 24 years, I have met so many influential and inspiring people along the way. It's been a great ride with NAPAW, I must say. I owe thanks to Vivian and this great organization. That's one of my accomplishments in my life. Another accomplishment is, it's pretty recent. After 42 years of federal government service, I have retired from the Food and Drug Administration in January. And so I can go on and on about how wonderful it is to not have any assignments and deadlines and wake up every morning whenever I want to. And, every day seems like a Saturday. So I don't want to make everybody jealous, so I won't go into that. Maybe it's too late. But just to conclude my introduction, I was born in Japan and raised in Hawaii, so Ohayo gozaimasu and aloha everyone. And now I consider myself a Marylander since I've been here for more than 40 years. So anyway, okay, enough about me. It is nice to see so many people here on a Monday. I know how hard it is. I remember that when I was working. Monday is the hardest day to get up and get ready and go to work. So I must say, there are a lot of people here from NIH, of course. How many are from NIH? Can you just raise your hand? Okay, and there's more coming, I heard, so thank you for that. Since I am a federal government retiree, and most of my years I worked in HHS, not at NIH, but I worked at SAMHSA, PSC, and FDA, and so I've had, a few agencies on my back. And I am so proud and impressed with all the work HHS does, and of course NIH folks here. Just wanted to say, thank you for helping to protect our health every day and for all Americans. So I want to applaud this for NIH and HHS folks. And today I am so impressed and delighted that there are so many small business folks here in this room. And I just want to see, can you raise your hand to see how many of you are from small business side? Okay, very good. Thank you. Welcome. And there are many people, others from other agencies, and for those who are retired, like myself, are here today. So everyone, thank you all for coming. You had a choice to do something else today or go to work and go to your office. So, you chose to come here, and I'm so glad you did. Just quickly, because I don't know if I have chance to say thank you to all the planning committee members that, worked so hard to put this program. So I just want to say, these are folks that followed, Madam Chair Vivian Kim and planned this program today. Our co-chair, Mary Hayes, who I can't thank her enough. She's way up there. Mary, just wait a minute. Registration Chair Sue Yang, who is by registration table. And her team member, Tin Ong, thank you for coming to help. And Asia, thank you for today's help as well. She's from NIH. And advisor Dorita, she'll be here soon. And graphic designer who put together the slides and finalized the program booklet for us. That's Echo Zhang. And of course, Annette and Courtney Carter, who you met earlier, from NIH for their logistics and facilities and equipment. So thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. I had a great time working with you to plan this together, so it's all great. Okay, so you have a program. I just want to go through the program with you. And there is a flyer in there. I want you to keep that, because that is an important informational memorial concert that is coming up in August. And it's, you know, if you haven't been to a memorial concert in the past, it is one of the beautiful, beautiful events that you need to experience at least once. And then once you get there, you want to come back the next year. I can guarantee. I've been there many, many, many times, and you know, it's great. It's all for the great cause. It's in honor of Miss Vivian Kim's late daughter, beautiful Susie, who lost her life to cancer. It is a fundraiser for cancer research and providing scholarship for students, so it's really for the great cause. This year, remember, date is August 5, so please keep that flyer. All the information is in that. Just to go over the program, we have our next break is at 11:15. We were going to have a break and networking session then, and I think we will have congratulatory remarks by Ms. Prachee Devadas coming up from Synergy Enterprises. We will then have a short recognition presentation, but we will hear next from Ms. Vivian Kim, so, you know, just stay tuned. We will have a forum around 9:45 on small business moderated by Annette. So be ready for that session. We will, and like I said, we'll take a break along with a networking. So I'll remind you again, but you know, if you need to go to the restroom, please do so quietly. During our luncheon program, we will have a survivor story, which will be inspirational by our own Dorita Dilemos Downs, followed by a business success story by Naren Mohan of North Star Technology Corporation. Then our dynamic leadership session will be presented around 1:30 by none other than Dr. Fred Soto from Department of Energy. Then always informative Dr. Sujam Ba will have presentation on cancer prevention, which is a very important topic for all of us. We will then have more time for networking after the program ends today around 3:30. So again, I do appreciate everyone taking the time away from your regular work day today. So whether you are here to learn about doing business with federal government, or wanting to be inspired by successful small business owners, or wanting to learn about tips on how to be a good leader, or learn about how to prevent getting stroke or cancer, or just want to network over a great lunch, you will be surprised. I mean, this is not lunch, this is appetizer, snack, so don't eat too much right now. And then we will conclude our day, and we'll stay after the program to mingle with everyone. So, you know, take your time getting out of here today. So now we're gonna get started. Is that okay with you? All right. We'll start this program by singing of the national anthem by Dr. G. Won Park. And please read her extensive, impressive bio of her when you get a chance. In short, she grew up in South Korea, who studied and received bachelor degree from University of Korea, and in United States, She received Masters in Voice from Peabody Conservatory and then doctorate from Musical Arts in Voice and Opera from Boston University. That is so, such an accomplishment right there. She has received several accolades for her opera performances and recently joined the Boston Soloist Ensemble and performed for their concert series. A music director, soloist, voice, and piano teacher. I can't wait to hear her sing. Please welcome the amazing Dr. Park, and everyone please stand for the singing of the national anthem. Hi.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so boldly revealed that the twilight's last gleaming, whose rose bright and bright stars through the perilous fight, for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. In the rocket's relay, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay, I have goosebumps. Thank you very much for the beautiful rendition of the national anthem. Okay. Next is no. Okay. So that was for her. Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda, Miss Vivian Kim, founder and the chair of NAPAW, was also a former small business program manager at SAMHSA. She started with a vision of creating an organization with a mission to educate and train especially Asian American women on their personal and professional growth, as well as enhancing their leadership skills. Although as long as I can remember, the organization has been reaching out to both women and men and of all races. With support of others who believed in her vision, have been putting together training conferences and other special programs and activities every year for the last 24 years. So congratulations to Vivian and the NAPAW for the outstanding accomplishments. I hope the NAPAW will be around for at least 24 more years to continue to do great work. Please everyone stand up and welcome Miss Vivian Kim.
Kaye, you're too much. Thank you so much, Kaye, for your wonderful introduction about me. Sounds like I'm home again. I also worked at HHS for 32 years and I retired. I don't know how many years ago. Anyway, thank you very much. Welcome, every one of you, for being here today. I'm so glad to see so many women and also men, and I'm so glad. Today marks 24th NAPAW Small Business Forum, and Dynamic Leadership Program in co-sponsorship with National Institutes of Health and NIH Office of Small Business Program. We are very proud and proud to present this exceptional training program jointly. Let me take a moment to acknowledge and express my sincere gratitude to those two members, such as NIH Small Business Office, Annetta Owens, Scarboro, Small Business Program Manager, and Courtney Carter, where she is. Courtney Carter, she's a procurement analyst, and also Alicia. Their outstanding support and assistance to the all this program planning together, their dedication and contribution. We are so appreciative. And also they served at the host training site. I would like to also thank for my personal thanks to all the program planning committee members for their dedicated time and valuable time and efforts and their tremendous, their teamwork. And first of all, their demonstrated professional excellence to make this training come together with a total commitment, contribution, and compassion. This training could not have done without them. For that, I really thank. My deepest appreciation goes to all the speakers, presenters, and leaders for their motivational and inspirational messages. It will provide potential and participants who qualify a unique opportunity from the personal and professional aspect. Again, today's program presentations are most timely addressing issues that confront us today. Finally, today, in celebration of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, NAPAW and NIH Office of Small Business Program, we working together to enhance this training program and identify the importance of sharing the cultural richness APA community at large has brought to this nation. In closing, I would like to thank each one of you here for your active participation and welcome to the 24th NAPAW Small Business Forum and Dynamic Leadership Training. I hope you all will have a great, exciting date and remember so many years. And thank you and God bless you. It's simple, short is good. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Okay, well, let's keep on going with our program. I am so excited to see the next presenter, speaker, remarks she's going to make. She's going to do a congratulatory remarks. And She has been an old friend of NAPAW. And it's fine. Yes, I have not seen Prachee, Devadas in many, many years. But we go way back. So it is nice to have her here today, and very excited to hear about her success story. She had many years of journey that became very successful. And just to let you know that she has been in federal contracting business since 1994, overseeing contracts totaling more than $600 million. That is so great. Please help me welcome our friend Prachee.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm really privileged to be here. It's an honor to address a crowd such caliber, diversity, and I must tell you that I was asked to just give the congratulatory remarks to NAPAW, which I think is a very distinguished organization. I consider it a very small but mighty organization. So it's sometimes important to understand that small doesn't mean insignificant. Small means you have an identity and you can make a mark on life itself and the community. And that's what NAPAW has done. They don't have high overheads. Vivian has truly walked along with the other key leaders of NAPAW and the founders of NAPAW to contribute to society, to contribute to the professional and personal successes of many young and not so young Asian American men and women. And she has done this because she's forged phenomenal relationships with individuals from other federal agencies. And I have to thank Annetta for being here and for being co-host for this particular event. So congratulations NAPAW, congratulations the leadership for getting this organization off the ground and being successful for the last 24 years. And again, I was thrown a bit of a curve this morning because I walked in and I was told I have to talk a little longer, so I hope you can bear with me because I'm supposed to be the keynote speaker. And I was like, all right, if there is anything that I've learned in this business and in running a business, is to be able to rise up to any challenge. So when one thinks about success, there is the Merriam-Webster dictionary that success means getting fame, prosperity, and wealth. And that's all good and true. But when you really analyze success, for each one of us, it has a different meaning. And it's important for us to understand two things. We are in business to do business and to be able to make a profit. But it should never be at the limit or to sacrifice our own personal goals, and to have the ethics as well as the sincerity and passion that allows us to be very productive human beings. So saying this really is an amalgamation of what the very successful business leaders of today say. They say add a third metric where you define success with being able to achieve your full potential. They say define success by overcoming all the obstacles that you possibly can. Because success is very transient in my opinion. You can be successful today and you can sit on your laurels and then quickly go downhill because you have no peace of mind, you've lost all your money, and you're not doing anything that's productive. So to me, in my personal opinion, it's to look at every day as a fresh new challenge, to be able to garner the forces and to be able to overcome those obstacles. Another thing that has really helped with success or achieving success is to be able to have the relationships that we truly and sincerely respect and we call upon. And it is a two-way traffic. So being able to have very good client relationships, and I consider this really twofold. The relationships with your clients are not just your outside clients, they could be commercial or federal clients, but they are also your clients are the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, your employees. Because ultimately, you are wherever you are because of their teamwork, their talent, and their ability to give to you. So as a dynamic leader, you have to always call upon yourself and emulate what you want them to follow. So you have to walk the walk and talk the talk. You have to be able to say, if you expect someone to work long hours and give it their best, then they should be able to look to you and say, my leader does that. Therefore, I'm motivated to do that. And that should be something that should be across all specters of your life. Whether it's personal, being a wife, a mother, a business person, a friend, and that is something that has truly helped me. I might be saying something that's not new to you all probably do all this, but I think getting reaffirmation is always very inspirational. So I hope that you will take this in the right light. I'm not pontificating, and I'm certainly not lecturing. It's more just trying to reach into who you are as an individual, to understand what your full potential is, and then to inspire the people around you by reaching your potential. I think I'd like to just share a really quick video because I'm not sure many of you know what I have done in business, and this might give you a little snippet of it.
No signal din ay okay.
Well, at this point, I think you're just going to have to guess what's going
We'll
on.
continue to stand by them. But ensuring that small businesses can thrive is about more than just economic success. It's also about who we are as a people. It's about a nation where anybody who's got a good idea and a willingness to work hard can succeed. That's the central promise of America. It's that promise that has drawn millions of people to our shores. It's what drives workers to become their own bosses. It's what propels some basement inventor to bring a new concept to market. That's what led two guys, Bobby Pancake and Steve Wheat, their real names, who are here today, to take a chance and try their hand at actually running restaurants. Obviously, they'd have to be restaurateurs named Pancake and Wheat. They worked for a restaurant chain for years, but they decided to leave the corporate offices and open up their own franchises. In fact, Bobby and Steve told me they recently opened up their 6th location. And Terry Haney, the general manager of one of their locations, is also here. This same promise of being able to build your own dreams and be your own boss led Prachee and Devadas to come to this country, become a citizen, and open up what's become a successful technology services company. Prachee told me that when she started, she had just 1 employee. Today, she employs more than 100 people, including her husband, Annetta, who's here today. So the fact is that small businesses all across the country are hiring people, making a difference in their communities, giving back to their communities, but they've all...
So that's just a little snippet of what I was honored with, amongst other honors that I've received. And the only reason I showed this to you is it's not just about me, but as our previous president mentioned, there are others who have businesses other than working for the federal government that can also be extremely successful. because it's again, as he and I have said, and I'm only following the great man's words here, is that you've got to be able to work hard, you've got to understand your potential, and be able to rise to the occasion. I am not sure what else I can provide right now, but I'm open to questions if you have any for just 5 minutes. And I also have some brochures about our company and some giveaways if you'd like to get any of those. They're right in the back. Anybody have any questions at all regarding small business?
Prachee. Hi, Prachee.
Hi.
I'm Mary Town.
Hi.
I am not a small business owner, but I've always been intrigued by small business owners and how they start out at ground zero and move forward. So I would like to know your challenges and obstacles along the way as you grew from a very small business owner of 1 to 100 employees. Can you just kind of give us an overview of that journey and the obstacles that you met along the way and how you overcame them?
Okay. That's a really good question. I think that's applicable to a lot of individuals who are here. To start a business, sometimes one thinks, oh, if I have enough finances, if I have a business plan, this is going to work. But preparation for any step in life is half the battle won. So you have to understand that it's not just having the right tools or the resources, but you should also be able to anticipate your client's needs and understand the timeline for what you want to achieve. So for instance, when I started my business, I had a timeline that I needed to make sure that I could meet with X number of clients, I could find out what their needs were, I could then look at the vehicles that I needed to procure so that I would have everything set up before I began meeting with them and telling them that I was interested in doing business with them. And individuals like Annette and their small business program office have been extremely helpful, because I would call her how many times, Annette? I don't know if you remember, but I would contact and I would find out what vehicles were coming out, how could I go ahead and do business with them, and then use my resources really wisely. One key component I feel is relationships, and I can't underemphasize that at all. It's relationships with individuals so that you can expand your network and learn where is the need for a service or a product that you might be providing. And these relationships are not just with your potential or your current clients, but it's with your partners. Looking to large businesses, because there are many obstacles that you run across where people will say, well, you're too small, you can't do this work. Well, then you forge a relationship with a larger business or a mid-sized business, and you bring value to them. You don't go to them and say, give me a part of the business because I'm a small business, I want to work with you. You have to represent value. So you try to recruit as much talent as is required for that particular opportunity, so that you can present a value added to your partner and therefore with your partner to the client. So those are consistent obstacles that you come across as a small business. And by hiring the right talent, and many times as a small business, you can't afford somebody on a high payroll because they're a PhD, retired, ex-federal employee. Well, then ask them to be a consultant, because that will also help. So those little pointers that you have, hiring people as consultants, looking to larger companies to represent value-added services, help me get over those obstacles. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prachee. Wow, that's a success if the president knows you. What can I say? Next, I'd like to introduce and bring up Ms. Mary Hay, along with Vivian, to provide recognition to the NIH co-sponsors. Just quickly, Ms. Hay is now the co-chair of NAPAW. She has been a long supporter of our organization, so I'm so glad she's on board permanently. And she is truly the most generous individual with a big heart, and we love her so much. So, you can learn from her that if you give, you will be rewarded. So, I know she's a very successful businesswoman. So, please, Vivian, come up too, and please give a big hand to Miss Mary Hay as well.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and special honored guests today. Thank you all for coming and attending this very special event. I am Mary Hay, the co-chair for NAPAW. And every year, NAPAW recognizes and honors outstanding individuals during special events, like this special event. The NAPAW 24 Annual Training Program. So, on behalf of NAPAW and in co-sponsorship with the NIH Small Business Program Office, we are delighted to present the following special recognition award to 2 individuals. We would like to recognize and congratulate them for their dedication, commitment, and hard work. It is a special honor to have them today. Mr. Annetta Owens, Scarboro, Small Business Program Manager, and Mrs. Courtney Carter, Procurement Analyst, BPA Program. Please stand forward and receive this award. Thank you. Ms. Vivian Kim, the chair, and myself and co-chair will present this award. In the award, Ms. Annetta Scarboro for exceptional leadership, outstanding contribution, and commitment toward 2017 NAPAW Training Program, May 22nd, 2017. Thank you. And Ms. Courtney Carter for sustained performance and dedicated support toward 2017 NAPAW Training Program, May 22nd, 2017.
Thank you.
So now, Miss Kaye, Nitta, please come back.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, congratulations, Annette and Courtney. Okay, I'm just going to bring back Annette. Oh, she's right here. Okay, so she will do the short remarks, and we'll continue on to the small business forum. So, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning again. First, let me thank Ms. Vivian Kim and Ms. Mary for those lovely words and for the certificates and contributions and all the awards. Vivian is always very generous in supporting NIH as well as making sure that we're recognized for whatever efforts we may do, as little as they may be. We all enjoy working with Ms. Kim, and we have no other choice but to follow through in anything she asks us to do. Okay, we're going to get started. I just wanted to bring up some, as they said, some small remarks regarding the NIH Small Business Program. I noticed that we don't have that many businesses out here, but this is information you can take back. Again, the NIH is it's a $5 billion agency. HHS is the largest commercial or non-DOD activity in the federal government. So we have money. It's just a matter of how you can market and strategize getting in and doing your activities. As Prachee pointed out to you, she used to stay in our office. She used to be there all the time. If not with me, she was with some of the other specialists that were there. But that's what you have to have, perseverance. You have to have that perseverance and determination. Again, I wanted to, the next slide. Okay. This is just a draft. This is not official yet, but this is the draft of the dollars that come out of NIH. There are 27 institutes and centers, and each one of those institutes and centers serve just like their own little agency. And surely we're going to have a panel here from representations from a couple of the larger institutes and centers to talk about what they buy, how they buy it, and what they have in store for small businesses. Again, the next slide, please. You wonder about your goals. You should wonder about our small business goals. NIH meets their small business goals and far exceeds them many times. And as you can see, the only goals that we're working on is our service-disabled vet and our hub zone. And this is what we achieved in FY16. As you can see what was in 15 and how we exceeded whatever we did. And we hope to do even better this fiscal year. Okay, next one. These are the 27 institutes and centers. And if you want copies of these slides, I will certainly, if you have your email address up front, I'll make sure that you do get copies of the slides. But these are the 27 institutes and centers. And I call them like little agency because they all run independent of each other. Next. And this is what we buy. This is the sampling of what NIH buys in a nutshell. We buy everything. Of all the 10 operating divisions under HHS, NIH buys a little bit of everything that they buy as well. Next. And this is just the lady that's responsible for allowing me to be here and representing her is Ms. Diane Frazier. She's head of contracting activities for NIH. Then her acting deputy is Mr. Phil Osborne. Brian Goodger, how many have heard of NITAC or CIOSP3? It's one of the largest GWACs in the federal government. Well, Mr. Goodger is in charge of that program. And Ms. Glennis Fisher, she's head of the acquisition policy area for all of NIH. Okay, next. And these are samplings of the directors. They're called Office of Directors. They're directors of each one of the contract shops. We have 10. And as you can see, these are the names of the persons that oversee these different contract shops. Next. And for simplified acquisition, folks, if you're just trying to get in the door, you're trying to get your foot in the door, these are some of the individual areas that you may be interested in. The blanket purchase agreement program, that's what Courtney works in the BPA program. Dorian Rappaport, she's in charge of the purchase cards. We have category management, that's sort of new to NIH, but it's up and coming activity. And again, Bridget Gouger is in charge of the NITAC program. Okay, next. And this is the names of the small business specialists. There are 4 small business specialists at NIH currently that support us that are from the Department of Health and Human Services, the OSDU department. And also I have an analyst that works in my office as well as Ms. Asia Quick. She's a summer intern from Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. So when she's out of school, she comes to work with us. But these are the small business specialists. You can also hear about our updates on Facebook and on Twitter. And that's what I have. That's my little brief overview of the NIH Small Business Program Office. Now, without further delay, what I want to do is I have some folks here from the acquisition shops that I asked to come to give you some words of what their operating divisions buy, and also to talk about their small business program. Dan Hall, he's from the Office of Research Facilities. I have Ms. Gwen Epps coming up. She is right upstairs in the National Institute of Drug Abuse. I have Karen Miller from the Clinical Center and Ms. Hughes from the National Cancer Institute, one of the largest contract shop here at the NIH. They're going to come up, and I had a small business specialist that was supposed to come, but I understand, Dan, you all called him over for a meeting. So I'm going to stand in as well as be the moderator for the small business program, and I'll start with that. What is a small business specialist? A small business specialist is your first line of representation in the government contracting activity. You should know who your small business specialist is. You should use that person as an advocate for you. to assist you in requirements that may be advertised and fed this up. The government contractors that are here, how many of you currently have contracts at NIH? How many are seeking to do business with NIH? Everybody put their hand up. Even if you're not here, you want to. Okay. All right. Well, we want you to do business with NIH. And what you don't want to do, find somebody to team with. And maybe you can pass this information along with them as you understand the training that we have here today. And again, the slides that I have, and I think some of these folks have some handouts, they will be on your back table, and you can understand that as well. We're going to start with Dan. And as I said, Dan is from the Office of Research Facilities. His office handles all of the constructions, this building, the hospital, all of the research facilities and or labs that are around here at NIH. Whatever we have like we had Zika, we had to build a lab. We had to build a building for them to place that person and persons that came over. Ebola, and everything that comes up, his office is responsible for constructing and making sure that facility is secure for not only the patient, but for individuals that's working with the patients. So without further ado, I'm going to let Dan go ahead and give his overview. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much for inviting me, Annetta. It's a pleasure to speak with you today. And thank you very much for the introduction. It's not entirely my office, but I'll take credit for today.
Okay.
I'm a branch chief within the Office of Research Facilities, and as Annette said, we handle all the construction services. So basically, we're a $450 million organization, and we're spread over several locations. Bethesda, Rockville area. We also have a location in Poolsville up the road, as well as Durham, which is in the Research Triangle Park, and then Hamilton, Montana, where they handle some of the more virulent viruses. And we use the Federal Acquisition Regulation as well as the GSA manuals in our solicitations and awarding of contracts. So some of the goods and services we produce, as Annette mentioned, we do construction services primarily. This includes renovations. Currently, we've just completed a major renovation of Building 10. That was about a $160 million renovation, and we're going into another renovation that will be of a similar size, and probably starting later this calendar year. We also do new construction. We're happy to say that we're building and almost complete a new child care center. This will house about 170 children ages 6 weeks to 3 years. This was a special project, not only has been in planning for quite a long time, but also is using as a tool to recruit young women and families to the NIH. Finally, architect engineering services. We do quite a bit of designing here, from our offices to labs. We also do facility leasing. So we have a lot of facilities in the Rockville area, which houses offices and some labs. And then facility maintenance, which handles stuff like groundskeeping, elevators, where we see a lot of service disabled, 8A firms coming in and helping us out there. So our acquisition process, I'm going to say it's similar amongst all our offices of acquisition, but I'll go through it quickly. Usually the program officers identify a need, whether it be a new building, whether it be a renovation, and they create a requirement to the contracting office. Basically a statement of work that tells us what they need done and an estimate for the dollar amount. And then what we have is, as contracting officers, we send out a solicitation asking for proposals from the business community. And we evaluate those based on criteria. These criteria are such things as past performance, management plans, the quality of the work, as well as the price. And then negotiations, if that's warranted, if there's, we think the pricing might be fine-tuned, or if there are some issues as far as the scope. And then finally, award is made. And we usually make award on the trade-off process, where we balance cost and quality. but we could also do it based on lowest price, which sometimes we do for more commodity type acquisitions. Our procurement methods, as I mentioned before, is negotiation, sealed bid, which is basically your lowest price. And then for architect engineering contracts, we are required by the Brooks Act to focus first on the professional qualifications of the architect and engineering firm. And then finally, we do orders off our internal IDIQs or GSA contracts. As Ms. Annette mentioned, we have GWAC for IT. Our office doesn't do too much IT per se, but it's the same process nonetheless, is that agencies create contracts that other agencies can use. And we're trying to use that more and more because it's so efficient. So my recommendation to you right off the bat is get on GSA's schedule. Our forecast, as I mentioned, implied before, Wing E of Building 10 is scheduled for renovation. That is currently out for solicitation on FedBizOps, which is the government's main point of advertising opportunities. And we're probably going to make award this fiscal year, which means September. That's going to be a major opportunity, especially for subcontracting. That's where an opportunity for new vendors or smaller vendors to get in, be subcontractors, help us, as the keynote speaker said, build value for the prime, as well as get experience at the NIH campus. Facility maintenance contracts, we're working on those. Also areas where 8A firms, service disabled firms, smaller firms can get in. And finally, I think this might be of particular interest, we're going to be recompeting our indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts for architect, engineers, and construction services in the next couple of years. Generally, this is an $800 million contract, and we do about 12 awards. About 4 to 8 of those will be for small businesses. So this is a great opportunity to get in because these are 5-year contracts. Once we do IDIQs, we do quite a bit of orders off of those because of the efficiency that they create. And then potential for awards is quite enormous. Again, it's $800 million, potential $800 million over 5 years. So that's my presentation. I will hand it off to the next speaker.
Our next speaker is Ms. Gwen Epps, and as I said, she's from the National Institute of Drug Abuse. And without saying any more, you can imagine they do surveys, they do curriculum development, they do all kinds of testing and activities for that activities as well. So I will let Gwen go into further information. And please hold your questions if you don't mind, or if until we finish all 4, and then we'll let you ask questions, okay? Thank you, Gwen.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? First, I'd like to apologize because I was asked to speak at the last minute, so I don't have slides, but I can discuss a bit about what we do. So at Nitta, I've been with NIH for almost 20 years now, and one thing I will agree in the part that I'd like to cover is the small business support aspect and how we support small businesses and really emphasize the process of what we go through to get small businesses contracts awarded, task orders, purchase orders. So at Nitta is the head of a COAG that covers 5 ICs, NIMH, NID, NITAC. We do R&D. We have 2 simplified acquisition shops, and amongst those simplified acquisition shops, we cover all aspects of the FAR. We do FAR Part 15, negotiations, commercial buys, simplified acquisition purchases, and the main thing with each aspect that we cover is when we put a solicitation out, the practice that we have in our shop is that before we ever post it to FedBizOps, we post automatically opportunities to see if a small business can perform that job. And if there's 2 or more small businesses that respond to the solicitation and are capable of doing the work, that's a process where it's not automatically set aside, but it next goes through the small business, through Annette's office, and basically the fight is on then to make the make the determination of why this must stay with the small businesses, which is really awesome for the small business community. So one of the things that's a misunderstanding within the small business community, they may see a solicitation on Fair Biz Ops and say, well, this went to Charles River, a large business. This always goes to the large business. But I could tell you and attest to the fighting that goes on amongst the divisions in the small business office and the position that they take to make sure small businesses within the community are receiving awards. So you are encouraged to, if you see a solicitation out, respond to the solicitation, because oftentimes we may just get one small business responding, and they'll say, well, we're the small business, we could do it, but you have the rule of two. So if you have two that definitely can do the work, that's a rule that we would have to set it aside. And everything is screened through the small business. And so right now, currently, I'm working in the policy office, but my past history for the past 16 years, I've been in operations throughout many different organizations, NHLBI, NCI, and Annetta and I have had quite a few head-to-heads, and I can tell you I mostly lose them all to the small business. So I just want to really emphasize that portion of it, because I'm not sure that the community really understands the importance of always, if you see a solicitation or you see something that your company may be capable of performing, hey, put a bid in, respond to it, because our first line of defense here at NIH and within this division is that it has to clear small business. And small business here even has the ability to hold up an award and fight for small businesses if they feel that that work can actually be done and performed by small businesses. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover about what we do in the small business aspect of it. Next will be Anita Hughes from NCI.
Before Anita comes up, I want to clear up something. Gwen and I have always had lovely conversations. We have to agree to disagree sometimes, but it all is for the good of the agency and the work that we're trying to do. She is correct. We sometimes have to take a position that the rule of two means two or more small businesses that have demonstrated at that time that they have the capability. At that particular point, we're not evaluating. It is just demonstration of the rule of two. And sometimes, we have subject matter experts, and I can tell you, the small business officer is not a subject matter expert. We're going by the regulations that we have to follow. And sometimes we're not right. And you all let us down sometimes when you don't respond to these solicitations, and that's why it's very encouraging for you to follow through from the beginning to the end, cradle to grave as we call it, to make sure we try to get these small business awards done. Hold on. Now we have Miss Anita Hughes from the National Cancer Institute. This is the largest institute at NIH. I'm not sure if any of you all are familiar with some of the dollars. NIH was considered to funding to be cut. But then they had advocates up on the Hill that gave us additional money for her institute to oversee former President Biden's moonshot. And what's the other one? Moonshot? Yeah, the Moonshot Initiative, to help find money for cancer research. If you remember last summer, his son died of some sort of brain cancer, and he's been advocating and fighting ever since to try to find a cure for this type of rare disease. So without further ado, Ms. Anita Hughes, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Anita Hughes, as Annette stated, and I'm the branch chief for the Strategic Acquisitions branch at the National Cancer Institute Office of Acquisitions. And strategic is another name for simplified. We renamed the branch because simplified acquisitions is not simple, and you have to strategize in order to get a viable contractual arrangement between the government and the small business. Thank you. And for the government, we'd be looking for the best value as well as what's in the best interest. But for the small businesses, we're trying to ensure that the terms and conditions are where they will cause no financial harm to the small business. So my branch is responsible for acquiring non-research and development support services, as well as products for cancer research and lab equipment, as well as IT equipment. With respect to the support services, the type of support services that we acquire may be conference meeting support, it may be website development, preventive maintenance for the lab equipment, and so forth and so on. So there's a gamut of services. In terms of the products, they're pretty minimal. We usually do reagents, or we may purchase mice, which are very few and far between. But we oftentimes do purchase tissue samples, in which we also purchase the freezers to store those tissue samples, With respect to lab equipment, it may be the large microscopes or the cytometries. And in terms of IT equipment, it may be servers, or it may be the software, not necessarily the hardware, but sometimes it's the hardware and the software. But we do purchase the software as well as the licenses for the software. So we do use the various, in terms of trying to get an arrangement in place, we may use some of the internal strategic mechanisms. We have the PICS, which is for the Public Information and Communication Services, and we also have NCATS, which is for Conference Administration and Travel Services. But we also use some of the GWACs, which I think Annette mentioned, the NITAC, which is for IT, and then we use SOUP, but we also use GSA Federal Supply Schedule, and we use internal BPAs, but we also award BPAs ourselves, as well as IDIQs, which we have like multiple task orders or delivery orders that we issue against the IDIQs. The dollar value of the requirements that we receive range from $3,500 up to the simplified acquisition threshold, which is $150. But actually, we go up into the millions of dollars, because you can imagine if you're purchasing the large microscopes that they do go up into the millions of dollars. The contract types, I had mentioned those like BPAs, IDIQs, but they also vary in terms of fixed price, or we do labor hour, or even time and materials, and sometimes the mechanisms are a hybrid, which will have fixed price as well as time and materials, or a combination of the three, or sometimes all three of them may be existing depending on what the requirement is. I also want to say that we do simplified acquisitions as well as commercial buys. We do sole sources, and oftentimes when we get a sole source, we don't actually do it as a sole source because there's so many small businesses out there. So what we do is we compete it, and a part of competing is we do a synopsis, or which we refer to as a sources sort notice. So with respect to the sole source, we might, like I said, instead of doing a sole source, we try to compete it. So we put it on our bid board, which is located at 9609 Medical Center Drive. It's located in the lobby near the guard's desk. But those are for the smaller acquisitions up to $25,000. And unfortunately, we don't have it electronic, so you would actually have to physically come into the building. But on the bid board, we have copies of the requirements that are being solicited, and have a contact name and number, and even a specialist to contact. For those requirements over $25,000, we either put them on, if we go on GSA, we'll do them on eBuy, or we'll synopsize them on FedBizOps. And we try to go to the small businesses. That's the first thing that we do. We try to reach out to the small businesses. So as Annette has stated, it's imperative that you do respond to any of the synopses that are out there. And the other thing that I wanted to say, I don't know whether Annette has covered this or not, but you should have a NAICS code depending on the product or services that you're going to provide. You have to have a DUNS number because the DUNS number will let you register in SAM.gov. SAM.gov is imperative because in order to receive federal funds, you have to be active in SAM.gov. And if you have difficulty getting into SAM.gov, there is a contracting officer on that website that will let you know how to, work through the process. So like I said, it's very imperative, and we look forward to working with small businesses. So please respond. Thank you.
Again, Anita pointed out similarities to what Dan and what Gwen pointed out to you, but it is so important for you to be in SAM. It's so important for you to have a NAICS code. It's so important for you to respond. One thing she brought up, and this is something I've been working on for the last couple of years, is trying to establish a electronic bid board. NIH has 14 bid boards all over the country, North Carolina, Montana, and in these days and times, it's very difficult to get on the NIH campus, as many of you might have found. Well, no, not today. You don't have to worry about it because you came out here. But if you go on campus, you got to go to the visitor center just to go look at a bid board. I know they used to have a kiosk, but because it was so frustrating getting on campus, they took the kiosk down. So, we're pushing hard to get an electronic bid board. But one of the issues with the electronic bid board is my folks that are sitting here is that then everybody in God's creation is going to be responding right now. If, they have the rule of 3. They can do 3. Contact 3 people or 3 people contact them, and then they can go ahead and make a selection. Well, when we get that electronic bid board, because of that dollar threshold, you can get 5,000 people responding. And so we got to work out the policies of how we're going to select those 3. But that is on the horizon, the 3, the bid board electronically for you. Now, my next person coming up is a friend of mine from years and years. We won't talk about how many years, but she too works out here, and she is a contracting officer. She's contracting officer also at the Library of Medicine. Now, the Library of Medicine is just what it is. It's the library. It's the library for the world. I mean, everything you can imagine medically is at that library. So that's a lot of IT work. There's a lot of other activity, logistical work that has to be done, and subject matter experts that have to be brought there from all over the world to give their opinions or update them on medical procedures and so on and so on. I've been here too long. I know too much about y'all. So I'm going to let Karen speak to you. As they say, all these people sitting up here, we've had to agree to disagree sometimes because of what we buy, the importance of what NIH buys. I'm quite sure all of you, in some way in your life, have been affected medically by what's come out of the National Institutes of Health. So that's why it's so important for us to get it right when we go out here medically. So I'm going to let Ms. Miller speak to you right now. All right, be nice to me.
Good morning. My name is Karen Miller, and I work for the National Library of Medicine at NIH. We're located at the Contracts Office, 6707 Democracy Boulevard. We're a COAC, meaning that we do work for multiple institutes at NIH. I actually do not do any work for the Library of Medicine. I do purchasing for the Center for Information Technology, CIT, the Office of the Directors, OCIO's office, and the NIH Office of the Director, the OCIO's office. So I do a lot of IT and IT requirements. As far as when they go back to the bid board and getting in contact, coming to the campus, an easier way that I tell my small businesses, pick up the telephone, call and ask if there's anything on that bid board. Ask what's on that bid board and obtain the information, and then ask them to send you a copy of it. That'll save you from coming to the campus and from making that trip and finding out that the bid board may not have anything on it, or it may not have anything to meet your requirements or your needs. I also meet with my small businesses because in the IT world, there's a lot of opportunities out there for small businesses. And my program officers have to prove to me why a small business cannot do. Otherwise, we look at, can they do subcontracting? There's always requirements out there on FedBizOps. They may say sole source. I tell my small businesses, even though you see it sole source, put in a, if you feel you can do it, submit your name into the bid box for that to see, can you do it? And if you cannot do it, then find out who was awarded that contract and see if you can't do some type of a teaming arrangement with them to understand what the requirement is to give you an opportunity in the future for being able to respond to that requirement and possibly being successful. As far as IT and IT requirements, I have a number of requirements up and coming that's going out to my 8A businesses, to my Hub Zone businesses, and to my small businesses. So that I ask that if you're on GSA schedule, look out for eBuy, because most of them are coming out that way. If they're on NITAC, they will be issued under the NITAC small business area. Do teaming arrangements, because teaming arrangements get your feet into the door for doing opportunities. A number of my requirements that I have awarded to a small business are now large businesses because they've come in, they've done the work, they understand the work, and they've been given an opportunity to prove themselves. As far as other requirements at the Library of Medicine, as Annette stated, we do a number of requirements for the library and for other institutes. I don't know all of the work there, but I do know that if you pick up the phone and you call our office, we'll give you that information. If you look on any of the websites and you look up under the contracting offices, you'll see the contracting officers available at each one of the institutes. And those individuals can give you information that they have available or give you an opportunity to come in and meet with them and give them knowledge and information or put you in contact with the right program person that you can meet with to obtain information that's needed and necessary. Thank you.
I apologize. I failed to mention something. For NCI, for the Simplified Acquisitions Group, or strategic, shall I say, I have a printout of our current small business opportunities, and on this printout, it has a point of contact and a contact specialist name that you can call regarding the requirement to find out, specifics about it. So I'll place that on the back table. But also, there is an HHS procurement forecast that has all the small business opportunities on it from all the different institutes. So I just wanted to mention that.
Fantastic. Let's give them a round of applause because they did an excellent job. Vivian wanted this to be a training, and for those of you that are businesses, I hope this helped, and those that are here sitting in for someone, I hope it helped also. If you have any questions, this is an opportunity for you to ask them any questions. If not, as I said, I have their names, as you saw. I have their points of contacts, and I can have that for you as well. But I appreciate them coming by and providing us with this wealth of knowledge regarding the contract shops and how you can do business with the NIH. Is there any questions for any of them about any upcoming opportunities? Or yes, go ahead.
I have a question which is based on the change to the FAR regulations. The slight change to the FAR regulations that SBA passed last August, and it's to do with the similarly situated entities. And I was wondering how far along is HHS in making that and incorporating that language into your solicitations.
What changes is that? I'm sorry.
This is the similarly situated entities, the rule that now affects the subcontracting policy.
Okay.
SBA passed it in 2016 August.
Right, and what is happening is the policy offices are working on coming up with a determination with the subcontracting. And what that is a new policy that sort of now requires when the prime contractor, means the largest businesses, select their subcontractors, they now have to identify in advance their subcontractors, and they have to make sure that when they're doing their reporting, in a nutshell, that those companies are there. What has happened in the past is that the prime contractor, all they had to do was say, I'm going to do a percentage to a small business, and then that was it. and how they came up with their goals and achieving the goals was on them. They didn't have to identify necessarily who their subcontractor was. They didn't have to pretty much follow suit. And the subcontractors now have a voice at the table. Because if you're going to say I'm subcontracting with Vivian Kim's corporation, you're going to have to identify Vivian Kim and include all her information in that package when you do these reports. Because there are certain reports that you now have to report up. And now that everything's electronic, there's no more of I promise, I will, or would, or should, or whatever. You have to identify this. But no, in answer to your question, Prachee, we have not, it is and it isn't implemented, put it that way. Some of it is in the FAR, but it hasn't, no, it's not in the FAR. It has, the policies have been crafted for each of the government agencies.
There's actually an expansion to that rule, and it's called the similarly situated entities, where previously the rule was if you were a small business prime, you had to do 51% of the work in labor.
Right.
But now this new rule expands, and it says you can subcontract with a similarly situated. So let's say you are a woman-owned and you work with a large woman-owned company as your proposed subcontractor. You no longer have to do 51% because you're almost working like a JV.
Right.
And that ruling was passed by SBA also as, you know, for the same purpose as you just explained, to make sure that the small businesses weren't left out after they were incorporated into this. But it's a slightly different take. And just wondering if HHS, NIH has looked at that ruling and if it's something that's going to be coming down and be incorporated into the solicitations.
Well, like Annette was saying, policy is being developed on that. But one of the things that we do try to do now in order to address small businesses is that if the small business was identified, what we try to do now, and at the recommendation and urging of small business offices, we will now award 2 separate awards so that we keep the process clean, so that a large business can say, oh yeah, we're going to do a task order to this small business, and you never receive a task order or you never receive work. So that is one of the things that we do practice, and it's really highly looked at the small business office. And another example, so I think, like I said, I'm a contracting officer also, so at the end of the fiscal year, I normally jump in and help operations out. So we may have like a large animal contract that may have 40 task areas. And, you know, now we have small businesses where the small business office, Annette will call in, well, we need a subject matter expert. We can break this work up. There is work that a small business can do, not only cage washing, not only transportation. So small business is working really hard, and so it's really encouraged for just small businesses to apply to solicitation. So you never know with the NAICS code, if you have 15 tasks and you're breaking up the work, maybe 5 pieces may now be set aside for those small businesses. But if the small businesses don't compete, it's hard to. But that is, I mean, not to be long-winded, and to answer your question, it's a requirement that we will break it out and make 2 awards so that that small business is getting this fair opportunity and they're able to actually see the work and make a profit.
Thank you, Gwen. I have one other person that came in that will give us a few words, and this young lady is Lisa. She's from the clinical center. That's the hospital. I don't know if you know, many of you know the hospital. Now, it's just like a regular hospital, but it's a renowned hospital that's known all over the world. And if there's anything going on in the world medically, it's being done at one of our labs or in this hospital. So I'm going to let Lisa give you a few comments about the clinical center at this time.
Thank you. The Office of Purchasing and Contracts works specifically for the Clinical Center, and the Clinical Center provides space for all the other optives to come in and do research. So we do buy things for them sometimes, and we also purchase everything that supports the hospital from the ground up, from paper to medicine. So we do also the materials management, chemicals, well, everything. So anything you can think of that a hospital needs, we need. And we purchase, everyone does all of the different purchases areas. So we have small purchase people and we have the large purchase people, but we also do all the gambit of NITAC and BPAs and general contracts. All of our contracts are fixed price, so we encourage you to have a very good idea of what your price will be before you commit to us with a proposal. So any questions?
Any questions for any of the other panelists? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for Dan Hall and the steps. It's kind of like I have someone that has a business and they've been in business for 1 year and they only have one client, so they're really trying to get their name out there and develop more business. And Mr. Hall, I noticed you mentioned you have to get on GSA schedule. She has a printing business, so is that recommended?
And then the services that, and only because I spoke with her, is janitorial services?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a very good question. So my recommendation for GSA schedules was because a lot of, not only the COAC I represent, or Office of Acquisition I represent, but all the other Office of Acquisitions are trying to use strategic sources as much as possible. And the federal schedules on GSA are some of the easiest to use for contracting officers. As far as janitorial or cleaning supplies, the Office of Acquisition that I represent is taking that over, and we will be working with our program officers to see what portion we can break out to small businesses of different socioeconomic categories. As Annette mentioned before, NIH is looking to increase its percentage as far as hub zone, as far as women-owned, as well as maintain our percentages in other areas. But I think we're particularly focusing on those areas. So, and keep in mind that we're also required to go to Source America, or Ability One, which is a program run by the federal government, which is, maybe Annette can probably expand on this. It's to help those who are severely handicapped or blind, to provide business opportunities for those, employment opportunities for those individuals. So we may be going in that direction. We may be going as far as using the GSA schedules. We may be setting it aside solely for a hub zone or women-owned. I can't give you a definite right now as far as where we're planning to go. But if I was that person in that situation, I would definitely want to make sure that we have Annette on speed dial. Sorry to put you out there, Annette.
That's okay. No, not a problem.
I only say that because when she works with all our branches within the Office of Acquisition for ORF, and that probably wouldn't fall into my branch per se, but she interacts with my director at that level, and she can give updates about where we are on that particular solicitation when that comes out. I can't remember offhand when that's going to come out next.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dan. We're on schedule. I have one other person I want to come up and give a few comments, but let me just say, for you, regarding any new company that's starting and trying to market themselves at NIH, my recommendation would be this. Because you're so young and you can't get on GSA schedule, because there's some criteria that you have to meet before you get on GSA schedule, and one is having some time to service in, have dollar thresholds, and so on and so on. My recommendation is either simplified acquisition, micro purchases, teaming with somebody that's already there, making sure you get yourself out there, introduce yourself to the programmatic people. A lot of you say, well, I don't know who the program people are. I don't either. But what I'm saying to you in honesty is NIH has a directory. There are over 3,000 programmatic folks out here, and sometimes they don't know from period to period if they're the core on a requirement, just like we don't know. So you need to not try to market yourself to all 27 institutions and centers. I would select 3 to 4, find out what their buy, find out what their major buys are, and use that as a guide to get started. Now, for janitorial services, I would look at the clinical center. And that's the hospital. As Dan pointed out, not necessarily a prime activity with his group. However, if you have, they do a lot of subcontracting. They have painters, roofers, they have all kinds of people to come in. And they may need some janitorial services there, but I would strictly look at the clinical center if you're looking at janitorial services, okay? Right. If you're talking about IT, we talked about NITAC. NITAC is one of 3 or 4 GWACs in the government agency, SUE, NITAC, GSA, and is there one more? Well, that's NITAC. And now the Department of HHS has another GWAC that's dealing with IT work, but it's not on the same scale as NITAC, and that's SPARC, and that's out of CMS. That's where they're doing a lot of IT work, but theirs is not similar to what we're doing. NITAC is all over the, I mean, anybody who wants to use NITAC in the government agency can, if you're on that particular government-wide activity. But IT, the library of medicine does a lot of IT work, as I said, because Karen pointed out, she works for CIT. We have allergy, does a lot of IT work as well as an HLBI. So I would select, like I said, 3 or 4 companies that you really want to institutes and centers that you want to market yourself to. Since we got about 10 minutes left and you're not being overly questionable to us here today, I'm going to let one of our senior small business specialists for the Department of Health and Human Services that supports NIH come up and give a few words. And that's Marvin Centers. He supports the NIH, and Marvin supports about 3 of the institutes and centers at NIH. But after Marvin finishes, if you do not have any other comments for our panelists, they will stay around for about 10 minutes while we're networking, because we're going to network a little bit after this. And then you can ask them a few questions individually if you're being shy this morning, okay? All right, Marvin, thank you.
Good morning. Well, now that Paul had breakfast and some good information, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Marvin Center, and I'm one of the small business specialists that supports NIH out of the Health and Human Services. We have a really good, robust team from OSDBU, the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization from HHS, to be able to support the NIH. And with this team, we're broken up. We have different responsibilities within NIH. My responsibility is primarily focused on child health, the clinical center, and the Library of Medicine. So we are really committed to being able to provide whatever support we can to small business to be able to help them to maneuver the bureaucratic process in being able to see how they can get more involved in the procurement process, and hopefully they find out information, even land a procurement, should that come to be the case. So that's my general introduction. Since you guys don't have very many questions, maybe you have 1 or 2 for me.
Could you touch on the priority sources that a specialist looks at when we first look at the small business ability one, and that may just be
That's an excellent point, because we do have a priority of sources, and we do go down to those NIM-niche, as they're called, or those mandatory sources of supply. The question was to what is the priority of supply when it comes to procurement? What starts at the top that a CEO has to consider in order to make a buy? And the answer to that question is we have some vehicles that's already established that we have to look at, as mentioned, Ability One, prison industry. Some of these may have changed their name, but these are supply schedules, whatever those schedules. Those are at the top of the heap because of those are mandated, and oftentimes we don't get any latitude before we consider those sources of supply. Now, should what we're trying to procure not fall into one of those avenues, then we're able to come down to go to a open market after we get past GSA schedule and all the other mandatory sources of supply. So one of the things that I would encourage many small businesses to do, and that I've been saying really throughout my course of being a small business specialist, is don't hesitate to respond to the request for information. One of the things I hear a lot of, and I used to be a contracting officer, level 3 contracting officer. I still have my Fact C level 3. So I understand what they have to go through, and it seems like the pile never goes away. As soon as they get rid of 10, 15 more come up on the desk. So really, when they're going through the schedules, that's a way that they can get through their requirements quickly, because price reasonableness is already considered. Some of the things that they would have to do is already there. So as Annette was mentioned earlier, and some of those vehicles may still be open. If you have an opportunity to be able to get on one of the vehicles, that would increase your chances greatly of being able to get a procurement. And also in the schedule, get on the GSA schedule if you're not already. As I say, those vehicles really help the process goes a lot faster for the contracted officer. They have a little bit less things they have to go through in order to place that procurement. So as mentioned, those priority of supply, if you could just go through those, and they outlined in the FAR, that would be able to help you greatly if you can align yourself, get to one of those vehicles to be able to expedite your efforts in being able to land a procurement. I hope I covered the question. Does anybody else have? Yes, ma'am.
Where should you post for solicitations for the jobs that are under 25,000? Or does the HHS?
Well, under 25,000, those can be posted in the local, on the local board, on the bid board. Different organizations. Address? Well, it depends. It depends on the organization, and it depends on where that contracting staff is. And see, that is not one single address that's dispersed over the contracting activities throughout NIH. I know I wish I had a more specific answer for you, but that's how that's done.
So is there somebody we could call? Anita? Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say to you is that's what I was saying to you about the electronic. We don't have the electronic bid board. But if you call my office, we will give you the listing of where the bid boards are, their addresses, because as I said, we have bid boards all over the country. We got one in Research Triangle Park, we got one in Montana, we got them in Baltimore, and we have them all around the NIH campus and off-site, because most of these people are off-site. None of us are really on the NIH campus. So if you call the office, I'm sorry. Dan is the only one on campus. I will make sure that we get one, and Lisa too. And I saw Julius come in. They're on, well, no, they're not on campus either. Yeah, so I will make sure you get a copy of the bid boards. And anybody else that would like one, you can let me know. If there's no other questions, I'd like to give a round of applause for these folks. I'm subject matter experts. Thank you. And as I said, I'm hoping they'll stick around for about 10 or 15 minutes. And you will have an opportunity if you choose to speak with them in the back, okay? Thank you. And I'm going to turn it back over to our MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette, and thank you to the experts who are wonderful panelists today. Thank you all. Okay, so we're a little early for the next segment. But I just wanted to challenge you to make sure you network and with those who you don't know. And I want you to get at least 2 or 3 business cards or information from start with your neighbor to your left or right or front or back. And, introduce yourself and really take this time to get to know other people that you don't know today. And I'll challenge you to do that, at least 2 or 3 business cards. And lunch will be served around noon, 11:45 to noon, and there will be a speaker coming up here. She's very inspirational, so you don't want to miss her. So don't go too far away. Just stick around for upcoming lunch. So please network, take a break, relax a little bit. Okay, thank you so much.